everyone, welcome. My name is Selby. I'm the social media head at GMAT Club, and today we'll be going live with Shruti from ISB. Our topic for today is starting your MBA journey from scratch. So if you're super new to this whole MBA journey process, this is the live where you ask your questions, and anything you ask here, by the way, is anonymous, so you don't have to worry. It's not going to be saved, the questions that you ask at least, but this live session will be saved after this ends, so you can definitely check this out later. But yeah, thanks everyone for joining. Hello, and I am going to invite Shruti. Already I can see awesome questions here. Thanks guys, keep them coming. Hello. Hi Shruti.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. आप कैसे हो?
I see आपका Hindi is getting better and better, है ना?
Yes, by every live, I'm trying. I'm trying to impress you.
No, definitely.
I know it's a little bit late, actually for the both of us, but I'm sure a lot of people are up since I can see they're joining. So yeah, thanks. It's so great to see you after so long, by the way. It'll be great if you could give us a quick intro, especially to our new users.
Yes. So I'm Shruti, and I'm the founder and the consultant with ISB. And we are MBA admission consultants. We assist for the comprehensive, admissions process. That means looking at your profile, assisting you with the essays as well as the interview preparation for admissions for MBA programs in India as well as abroad. So we do a lot of admissions for ISB, for the IIM Executive MBA one-year programs, as well as admissions abroad. And recently we've had a good success rate with all these schools, most of the schools that we worked with.
Awesome. So I'll just jump right into the questions since we're already having a lot of live ones. But my first question is, what is usually the first thing one should start with when they're starting this whole MBA journey?
Yeah. So when you're starting with the MBA journey, so one thing is decided that yes, you're going in for the MBA program. Now, which programs? So the first, the question over here is what programs would you like to take up? That means the first criteria becomes what location. So look at their programs can be divided by, in terms of their locations as well as durations. So there are 1-year MBA programs, there are 2-year MBA programs. In the US, you'll have most of the programs which will be the 2-year MBA programs. India has a lot of 1-year MBA programs now, and Europe largely has 1-year MBA programs. So according to your preference as to what time out you want from your work experience, that is one decision that you need to take. Second is the location. So along with the location comes the cost and the long-term plan. So if you have a long-term plan of settling down in the US, there's no point of pursuing a program in Europe or in India. You should directly look at a program in the US. So decide on the locations that you want to take up. Again, career goals. A lot of MBA programs are focused on the financial services or the consulting, the placements. So look at the placement reports directly and understand what your career goals are and which programs match your career goals. Budget is another criteria. Your long-term plans of staying in a certain location. So basically you need to ascertain your aspirations and the fit with the program, the location, the duration and the budget. And then you can shortlist, certain target schools from the locations. That is the first step of the MBA journey. Again, the next step, of course, becomes writing the tests, get done with the GMAT so that then you can start focusing on the applications.
I see. Awesome. I'll just like have some live questions up here. I like such questions. They're like, so can someone from non-IIT get into Harvard Business School?
So someone from non-IIT can definitely get into Harvard Business School, but depends on the rest of the credentials that you're coming in with. So if you look at what the school looks into, you need to conduct certain research into who has gone into the school previously. So look at the class profiles very closely. and the expectations of the schools. So if the schools are looking at academic excellence, you need to see how you have proven that. An IIT or a non-IIT is not a barrier as such. An IIT just says that yes, you belong to a certain academic caliber. But if you do see that your profile or your academic caliber is portrayed in other ways, then definitely you can go ahead and put up a strong application. So that certainly is not the only thing that they look at, and it is not a limitation at all.
Awesome. I'll bring one more up. What does an MBA journey checklist look like?
Yeah, so the MBA journey checklist will look like first, identifying what location you want to go to, shortlisting the programs, get done with the GMAT. Next, start with the application. So get done with the GMAT on time so that you have ample enough time to start with the applications. Decide on what round you will apply to. So for example, if you're applying to 5 or 6 schools, you will probably not apply to all of them all at once. You might apply to 3 in R1 and the rest in R2. So decide on what your preference is and how much time do you have at hand in doing that. Identify your recommenders. Work on your resume. If you're looking at the international applications, your resume is the first thing that they will pick up. So work very, very hard on the resume part. Start with it along with your the GMAT prep as well, and get done with your applications on time. Don't rush in with the last moment with the applications. I think that is a suitable checklist to go ahead with.
Awesome. One user asked 2 questions, so I'll bring both of them up. Even if GMAT isn't mandatory in some colleges, should one attach the scores if it's good?
Yes. So it depends on what the criteria is. If the school says that they are GMAT optional. So in case of an optional criteria, then it does make sense. If you have a good GMAT, you should attach that. If you have opted for a GMAT waiver, then of course you don't have that GMAT score to show to them. So that is the second case. And if the school identifies that yes, they are not at all looking at the GMAT, they are neutral to the GMAT score, then probably adding the GMAT score or not adding the GMAT score will not add a lot of value. However, for good MBA programs, even if the school gives you an option, they are test optional, so it does add value. If you have a good GMAT score, you should attach it.
Gotcha. And her second question here is 2 years of WorkX enough for business schools in Europe, or should I work 1 more year?
Yeah. For business schools in Europe, if you look at the average work experience, average work experience is slightly higher. So it will range from anywhere from 6 years to 8 years. So depending on the school that you are targeting, identify the average work experience, and then also look at the rest of the profile that you have. So 2 years becomes very less when the average work experience is around 6 years. So then how do you fit in the class and what do you bring to the class? So if your academics are really strong and your GMAT and the rest of the work experience, so for in 2 years you've done such a lot of work that it is equivalent to around 3 or 3.5 years of a natural work progression, then you might as well consider that. However, for every school, the average work experience is declared, so it is best to stay close to that average when you are applying so that you are a good fit with the cohort.
Gotcha. One more question here. Someone's asking, can I do an MBA without leaving my full-time job, ma'am?
You can do an MBA without leaving your full-time job, but these programs would then be the executive MBA programs or the part-time MBA programs. These will not be the full-time MBA programs. Plus, these programs do come with their own criteria of minimum work experience, starting from 5 years to 10 years. So depending on where you are in your career journey, if you don't want to leave your job and still pursue an MBA, you do have options, but you need to identify the right program according to where you are in your career path. I think the minimum that is available, the minimum option of work experience that is available for such programs is around 5 years, which is the ISB PGPpro. And the rest of the international programs will require at least 8 or 10 years of experience for you to continue working along with pursuing an MBA, an executive MBA.
I see. Also, I mean, guys, Shruti does not know what your profile looks like, right? So if you want more in-depth, analysis, I think you should definitely reach out after this call. Shruti, is there a way to reach out to you after this session ends?
Yes, so we have a website where you can, always schedule a call. So the website is goalisb.com. I can just type it out over here. And also, you would also be able to reach out to me on my LinkedIn profile. You could just, search out for Shruti Parashar, GoalisB, and I think you'll be able to reach out to me on that. I think these are two good ways to connect.
Awesome. One more question here. So someone says, having 4 job changes in a total of 7 years of experience is a challenge in Indian business schools. That's what they're asking. Also, can graduation marks be a deal breaker for Indian schools?
See, if you consider the application process, understand that the academics, the most recent academics that you have are the most important. So that means your undergraduate grades in undergraduate studies are definitely important. But can they be a deal breaker? There are a lot of things that the schools look at. So just the undergraduate marks being the deal breaker, I would not probably go with that. However, detailed analysis of your profile would help us, identify the strong points of the application and the strong points of your profile. There might be other things that you are missing out on, which could also strengthen your application.
Gotcha. Someone here asked, wait, let me pin it up. Will a business school's decision depend primarily on 2 factors, GMAT score and interview?
So the question is whether it depends on that.
Yeah.
So the business school will invite you for an interview if they like what you have submitted in the whole application. That means your GMAT score, your undergrad grades, as well as your essays, your letters of recommendation, and there is a whole unique part of your work experience. So the quality of work experience should also make you a good fit with the class. So once all these 4 things are verified and vetted by the school, and they see that yes, you are a good fit with the program, that is when you come to the interview. So saying that yes, only the GMAT and the interview are the 2 things that are important, that is probably not the case. What I would suggest over here is that the application and the interview, once you have the application in place, you must start focusing on the interview preparation as well. Interview is definitely important, and it might be a deal breaker at some places, because what you've written on paper, you must be able to communicate in person as well. So all these things are equally important.
Gotcha. I'll bring up a question here. So a user saying, I have 7 years of experience post MD, and I'm looking for post MBA opportunity updates. What opportunities are there for MD doctors working in pharma industry?
Okay. So for doctors working in pharma industry, a good option would be, hospital management, and getting into the operations, senior operations role, and working from there towards the CXO roles. That is one good option that you would have. Second option would be, going with the pharma consulting or the healthcare consulting parts, depends on what is a major part of your work experience. So these are 2 good options that you can look at. However, if we have a deeper look at the resume, you might actually have a lot of transferable skills which can get you to different other sectors as well. So if pharma sales has been something, then there is a lot of pharma tech which is happening these days. So you might have a good fit with the product management roles as well. But a lot of deeper insight is required for me to give you this specific information. But these could be possible ways that you can look into.
A person here asks, could you please explain the deferred MBA program?
Yes. So the deferred MBA program is actually, it's a deferred MBA admit. So you go to the main program of the school, but you get an admit ahead of time. So if the school is taking up people with a minimum of 2 years of work experience, the people who the guys who have a deferred MBA admit, they would be students in the final year or the pre-final year who do qualify and who do have outstanding profiles, where the school befits them that yes, we give you an admit, but come and join us once you have the requisite work experience. So deferred MBA means you get the admit now. You know that you are going to join that school, but you join the school one or the program once you have the requisite work experience, which is usually 2 years in India. So 20 months for the ISB YLP. And for the programs abroad, it is you can always defer it even further from 3 to 5 years. So you can work for 5 years and then even then go and join the same program. So that's what the deferred MBA means.
Yeah, I wish college students knew more about this. I mean, I completely did not know about this, and heck, I could have entered, Harvard University right after college, but that didn't work out.
Yes, true.
So yeah, awesome. I'll bring up another question here. So, should one give GMAT in college, even if the aim is to apply for an MBA after WorkX?
Yes. So the GMAT score is valid for 5 years. It is unlike the CAT score, which is only valid for the year that you are writing the test in. So the GMAT score is valid for 5 years. However, there is another important aspect over here is that the schools do prefer a recent GMAT score. So if your GMAT score is very old and you are applying after 5 years, so for example, you are in your final year now and you plan to apply after 4 or 5 years, writing the GMAT now, you could score higher probably because you're just fresh out of college, you have a lot of time to study, you can score higher. But will that score have that much value at that point in time when you're going to apply? You need to adjust that timeline accordingly. Having a recent high GMAT score has much more value than having an old high GMAT score. So recency is also important. Though the score is valid for 5 years, it is not that you will not be able to apply. You can definitely put up an application within 5 years of your GMAT.
Gotcha. Another question here. If we want to apply to business schools in the US and we have a 3-year graduation degree with some work experience, does that work? Is the 3-year graduation degree acceptable in the US?
So most of the programs now, they do accept the 3-year graduation degree. Depends on the university and the school that you have passed out, graduated from. So you need to look at the AICTE norms as well as the specific school criteria. So there are some schools which definitely want a 4-year undergraduate degree. That means you should have a BTech education to be able to go there according to the Indian norms. However, a lot of programs do take up the Indian 3-year graduation as a valid criteria for admitting students to the business schools as well.
Gotcha. Another question here. How tough is it for an Indian applicant to apply to top business schools? What should we do to make sure our application stands out?
So applying to top business schools is tough. It is not that it is not tough. You need to have a very strong academics. Academics is something that is a very important part of your application for a top business school. Second is your GMAT score. That is again a very important part. Third is where you are working and what organization and what kind of experience you have gained in this particular period, maybe around 3 and 3.5 years. So I have an admit who's headed to the INSEAD, and we have admits headed to the UVA Darden. And one thing that stands out in all of these applications, even Rotman, so all of these applications, is that they have good academics and they have above average GMAT scores. Plus they have worked for international organizations. They have had some exposure with international teams. So the kind of work experience and the value add that you're bringing to the cohort is definitely important. The process is very competitive, so you need to start ahead of ahead of the timeline. Don't wait for the last moment to start writing your essays. Give it ample time. For a top business school, understand that you need at least 2 months to write a good essay. Plan for multiple edits, and make sure that whatever you're putting across is top notch. So if you want to work for it for 1 more year, it is worthwhile doing that. So all of these guys who are going in now, they have worked for the past 1 year to prepare for this process. So put in that time and effort, and I think you can make it.
Gotcha. Another question here. Is this a good time to apply to US business schools, say Wharton, Chicago Booth, CMU, etc., for round 3 deadline ending March 2023 for fall 2023 intake as an international student with 15 years of work experience?
So as an international student with 15 years of work experience, there are and applying to R3. So there are 2-3 limitations that you might face. One is that R3 becomes probably the last intake for the international students. So that means you are looking at a very limited number of seats available for the pool that you are applying to. Second is that with 15 years of work experience, the average work experience at these schools at the US schools is not that high. The average work experience of these schools would be around 5 or 5.5 years. So 15 years becomes, slightly above average, quite towards the higher end of the class range. So applying in the third round, whether they have that bandwidth to accommodate more applicants, and what is the percentage that they are planning for the international students in the class, that becomes questionable. So you need to look at those chances. A very good way of deciding on this particular question is to talk to the schools themselves. You can always reach out to the school adcoms. You can always reach out to them with your resume, and check out with them as to whether you are a good fit for the class, whether you should put in your application, or do they suggest any other program within the within the school. For example, I have one gentleman with around 13 years of work experience who's headed to the Wharton EMBA, but whether he's fit for the Wharton MBA, I'm not very sure. So you need to analyze all these things very deeply to decide what is the right program and the time for you to apply.
Yeah. Okay, one more question. Please elaborate ISB PGP International Exchange Program.
ISB PGP International Exchange Program is a program which allows you to go to a certain school. So the school will give out some a list of options for you, which you can bid for in your I think in your 5th term, and then you select where you want to go to, and once you have that school shortlisted and the school takes up your application, they accept you into the program. Probably in the 7th or the 8th term, you go towards your international exchange programs. So you would, while the school will be sending some students from their cohort to ISB, ISB sends in some students from, the ISB cohort to those schools. So that is what the exchange program is about. Whatever happens in those terms in those schools is what you will also be studying at that point in time.
I mean, we already had a live with ISB guys, so if you missed that out, maybe you can go and ask that question there. I mean, thanks, Shruti, for answering that.
I'm telling that from my experience as an ISB alum.
Yeah,
that's how we had.
I also love that you have the name ISB and GoLSB. I used to get confused actually with that, but yeah, quite interesting. Another question here. So does graduation score matter other than GMAT score for business schools?
I will not say that it does not matter. How much it matters is something that the schools decide based on the complete profile evaluation. But yes, the graduation score does matter. It is important when you're looking at the top B schools that your graduation scores are also, they are also depicting the academic caliber that you are bringing to the cohort.
Someone here needs an opinion. So they're saying, ma'am, I'm doing CFA. Can I skip the MBA? I have a plan to do that later. So what should I do?
So if you're pursuing the CFA, probably you cannot, you can definitely avoid taking up the MBA right now. And once you have cleared, once you are done with your CFA level 2, there are a lot of schools where you will have the option of a GMAT waiver. So you will not have to write the GMAT, submit a GMAT score. So that is an option that you can take sometime later in your career as well. So definitely you can do that.
Gotcha. Okay, I think I feel like I skipped a few questions in between, so I'm just quickly scrolling through. Let me see. There's one person who's asked this question twice, so I'm just gonna bring that up. They've asked how many years of work X is enough to get selected into a good business school.
Depends on the school average. So you need to look at the school averages. Every program and every location has a different, level of work experience that they're looking for. So if you're looking at, so for example, there's a question here, ideal work required for ISB. The average work experience is around 4.6 years. Most of the schools in the US will have an average work experience of around 5.5 or 5 years. So stay close to the average, but even if you're beyond that range, it is not that you cannot apply. It is always good to have a word with the school and share your profile with them and see that if you are a fit. They will be very candid about their feedback. Take that feedback and then accordingly decide as to whether you want to apply to that school.
Gotcha. Other than all of these more common things that students know, what to do throughout their MBA application journey, what are some smaller things that students are not aware of that they can do to help them throughout this process?
So some things that they must do and which they kind of avoid doing is talking to the teams within the schools. You must share, and you must most of the schools, they have ambassadors. So they have student ambassadors and they are very helpful. So you can always reach out to those student ambassadors and get your queries addressed. That is one thing that a lot of people don't do, and they look for answers on Google, which is probably not required. You can just go and ask them directly, and they will be very candid and very open and very fair with their reviews. So that is one thing. And second is to start with your applications on time. You need to get done with your GMAT or GRE within a certain time limit, so that whatever round you are planning to apply to, you have ample time to work on your essays. It is not that they are not reading your essays and they are just looking at the GMAT score. So it is a misnomer that the GMAT is the only thing that they look at. A lot of people with high GMAT scores, they do get stuck at writing their essays, submit half-done applications, and then do not make it to the top B schools just because they have not planned their time accordingly. So now you need, now is the time that you need to plan yourself. If you're looking at R1, you can actually go backwards. The R1 deadlines are sometime in August. They start sometime in August. So if you just go backwards, you need to have at least 2 months to write your essays and applications. So get done with your end of your GMAT or GRE, uptake by end of May or by beginning of June. That means if if you might have to retake the GMAT, so that means one attempt should be done by April, so that you have another month to take up another attempt, and then you can smoothly, process your application and essays.
Gotcha. Someone here asked, what are the options available with GMAT in India apart from ISB?
So if you have around 4 years of experience, apart from ISB, so I'll go with the work experience range because that is how the Indian B schools have divided it. So if you have the GMAT score and you have 0 to 2 years of work experience, so 0 to 4 years of work experience, you can apply to the BIT School of Management and you can apply to SPJMR. These are two directly schools that they directly take up the GMAT score. At 4 years of work experience, you will also be eligible for the IIM Ahmedabad PGPX, the 1-year MBA program that IIM Ahmedabad offers. Then at 5 years plus, you will have a range of programs from IIM Bangalore, IIM Calcutta, Lucknow, Indore, Shillong. Kozhikode is one program also that you will be eligible for at 3 years of work experience. So the range for Kozhikode is 3 to 7 years. So you'll have at least around 10 to 12 programs within India that you can apply to with the GMAT score if you have around 5 years of work experience.
Gotcha. I think we have managed to answer most of the live questions here. And guys, if we have not answered your question, then I have pinned Shruti's email address, like contact@golisb.com, so you can reach out to her and ask anything else right there. But yeah, Shruti, do you have any other suggestions and tips as like an ending note to this live session?
Yes. So I would definitely like to say that don't get bogged down with the profile evaluations, or maybe looking at the LinkedIn profiles of people who are getting in. What you are looking at is the end result of all the hard work that they have put in, which they would probably have started 1 year ahead of where you are right now. So there's a lot of work that can be done, and if you do that work, you can definitely get into any B school that you plan to. You just need to have a very planned approach. You need to have a very sound, what do you say, your mental power should be very sound, and you should have a resolve that yes, I'm going to make it. Don't get bogged down by any myths or anything related to whatever puts you down. Just go for it.
Correct. Thank you so much, Shruti, once again. Shukriya. Yeah, and hope to see you again soon. Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Good night. Bye bye.